Some point to certain factors indicating we may be heading towards a recession, while others point to the healing job market as evidence we're on an upward trend back towards normalcy. So how do we fare after another month? Well, let's dig into the report to find out. Hey, and welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Preston. I'm a professional recruiter in the technology industry. If you can believe it, it's the start of a new month. August has flown by, and if you've been following my videos, you should know what that means. If not, don't worry, I'll fill you in. That's right, it's time for another look into the state of the labor market via the Bureau of Labor Statistics monthly jobs report. In today's video, we'll look at how many jobs have been added over the last month and break that number down by industry so that we can see which ones are thriving. We'll also be reviewing what makes this report so important to recruiters. But before we get started, as always, please consider to help a fellow recruiter out. Like, subscribe, click that bell, it really means a lot. Every industry has ways of tracking their performance over time. They use this data to adjust their practices and focus their efforts where it's most important so they can position themselves for long-term success. In some cases, this data is fairly easily obtained. For instance, a retail store can simply track their inventory and sales over time. Recruiting is an interesting case. On one hand, it's much like a sales job, and it's up to the recruiter to track their own performance and adjust their practices based on their findings. On the other hand, recruiters also must keep a close eye on the job market and greater economy because those things, while out of the recruiter's control, also influences their overall practice. So if you're a new recruiter and just starting out, consider using BLS data to help you choose a niche. Look at this month's data and compare it to the previous months and see which industries show consistent growth over time. There is a good chance that these would make strong, consistent niches to specialize in, especially if you want to be an independent recruiter. I urge you to go back and check out my videos on the previous job reports for further context. So without further ado, let's see how the US job market is doing, the BLS monthly jobs report. I should have to mention the effect the pandemic had on the US economy and the job market. Prior to it, we were in a great spot, a far cry from the lows we had experienced during the 2008 economic crisis. But lockdowns forced most organizations to greatly curtail their operations. Many companies had to close entirely. As a result, the US lost 22 million jobs. Throughout the pandemic, professionals turned to the US Department of Labor, specifically the monthly job report put out by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, to track the state of the job market and greater economy as we attempt to nurse it back to health. The BLS monthly jobs report contains important information about the job market and workforce, and it gives experts a deeper look into the overall economy. It allows them to make educated predictions about where it might be headed. But even despite the insight gained from those reports, many things remain uncertain. At the moment, economic analysts remain divided. Some point to certain factors indicating we may be heading towards a recession, while others pointed to the healing job market as evidence we're on an upward trend back towards normalcy, if there was ever such a thing. So how do we fare after another month? Well, let's dig into the report to find out. Establishment data versus household data. So the BLS monthly job report, or the employment situation as it's officially titled, is split into two segments. The first is establishment data, which is gathered directly from employers themselves. The second is household data, which is obtained from employees. As reported by the BLS, each segment has its own strength and limitations. Combined, they give us a snapshot of the labor market and its effect on the overall economy. By comparing this report to past ones, we can hopefully predict where the economy might be headed. So, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, establishment data is more accurate due to a larger sample size, although there are less data points to work with. On the other hand, household data tends to be less accurate but also contains more data points overall. The two most important numbers from this report are payroll employment, which comes from the establishment, and the unemployment rate, which comes from households. Payroll employment. Payroll employment rate is the most expansive of all the data points. It is a flat number of the total number of jobs added as reports by employers over the previous months. It is split up by industry to give us a deeper look at which markets are thriving and which are struggling. In July, analysts expected the economy to add about 250,000 jobs. This estimate was blown away by the final count, which more than doubled that number. The August report revises it downward by about 2,000, bringing July's count to 526,000. Still an impressive number. Comparatively, the economy added 315,000 jobs in August. Not as impressive as July's, but undoubtedly very strong. So here's how that number breaks down by industry. The professional and business services industry leads the pack with a total of 68,000 jobs that were added in August. This can be further broken down into computer systems design, which added 14,000 jobs. management and technical consulting, which added 13,000 jobs. Architectural and engineering services added 10,000 jobs. Scientific R&D added 6,000 jobs. Next up is the healthcare industry with a grand total of 48,000 jobs added between physicians, hospitals, and nursing/residential care facilities. Behind healthcare is the retail, which added 44,000 jobs. This includes general merchandise, food and beverage, health and personal care shops, and home and garden supply outlets. The manufacturing industry added 22,000 jobs, the most significant subsector being durable goods. Next up, we had the financial activities and wholesale trade industries, which added 17,000 and 15,000 jobs respectively. Rounding out the back is the mining industry. One we don't always see come up with these reports. It added 6,000 jobs in August. Unemployment rate. The unemployment rate is thrown around a lot, and for good reason. It is one of the most important statistics to consider when determining the state of the economy. However, it's often misunderstood. It should be noted that this rate only considers people who are unemployed and have actively searched for a job in the previous 4 weeks. Beyond that, there is also long-term unemployment, which means someone has been jobless for 27 weeks or longer. Also, remember that the unemployment rate doesn't consider individuals who aren't active in the workforce. That is, they aren't currently looking for a job. So with that in mind, analysts celebrate the return to a pre-pandemic low of 3.5% in July 2022. But in August, however, the number of unemployment people actually went up by 340,000. So as a result, the unemployment rate gained 0.2 percent points, going back up to 3.7%. The BLS also reported that the number of people facing long-term employment was 1.1 million. This isn't cause for alarm, however. In fact, quite the opposite. Economists suggest this indicates more people having started looking for jobs, meaning they're active in the workforce and now counted in the rate, where they wouldn't have been before. This is great news for recruiters because it means there are plenty of new candidates hitting the market. Supplemental data. As a result of the pandemic, the BLS began recording several supplemental data points to help better track the economy's recovery. This includes labor force participation rate. The labor force participation rate measures the population of individuals who are active in the labor force. This means they're currently employed or actively looking for a job. Considering the previously mentioned points, it should come as no surprise that the labor force participation rate went up to 62.4%. This is even more good news for recruiters because it means an even more active job market to take advantage of. Number of individuals not in the labor force who want a job. This statistic measures individuals not counted in the unemployment rate due to not having actively searched for work in the previous 4 weeks. This gives us a decent indication of the number of passive job seekers who remain unemployed for a variety of reasons. In August, this number decreased by 361,000 to 5.5 million. This is unfortunate news for recruiters because these potential candidates are hard to reach, but especially valuable. The less there are, the harder they will be to connect with. Workers marginally attached to the labor force. Here's an interesting supplemental data point I haven't talked about before that recruiters may find helpful. So in August, there were about 1.4 million workers categorized as marginally attached to the labor force. These workers were available to work and had looked for a job within the previous 12 months, but not for the 4 weeks leading up to this survey. This includes 366,000 discouraged workers who believe there are no appropriate jobs available for them. So if you're a recruiter, show them that they're wrong by helping them out. Current events. I bring up these supplemental data points today because next month there will be a big change in the BLS jobs report. They will stop reporting on a number of them. You see, many of them were being temporarily collected because of the pandemic, but now that we seem to be returning to normal, they will collect new supplemental data points that are more appropriate to the current job market. The BLS reports these statistics will focus on the prevalence of telework. This is very much a middle-of-the-road report. After the massive jobs gains that we've seen in July, we will have to wait a month or two more to see how the economy fares as the year starts to come to a close. Do you have anything else to add? We'd love to hear from you. Please feel free to comment down below. If you like this video, want to see more like it, feel free to support a fellow recruiter out. Give us a like, subscribe, click that bell. It really means a lot. Feel free to also follow me at Preston_Park, as I try my best to also post behind the scenes content daily. Thank you so much again, and we'll see you on the next one.